And even though we are together hundreds of years, we are still young within the context of our species. And we have decided that we will be explorers, we will be investigators of the cosmos. And this is a very common way that soul groups, when they are young, will set off on their very first ventures. The excitement of going into the cosmos as a team, all knowing each other from previous lives and just gathering information, getting new perspectives. So, your guides also Hi, I'm Muzz, iEvolv. Thank you very much for being here again this week. Please take a moment now to like, subscribe and share on this video. And later, if you feel inclined, I'd love to read your comment as well. I think we can probably all agree that it's dark times on planet Earth. I mean, global chaos is rising. Things are starting to get crazy. It's becoming quite apparent now that our governments are working against us. And there is an elite cabal of unelected bureaucrats that are now making declarations that we won't have access to travel, we won't have access to meat, we won't have access to all of the comforts which really are our right as much as it is their right. With these challenging times coming ahead, then you can't rely on the external system, because the external system is collapsing around us, and it's also being exposed as part of the apparatus which is intended to enslave us. So your guidance really must start coming from within. You must become much more intuitive as a human being, much more able to live wisely, to discern deception, to make decisions on a basis which is not just relying on the rational intellect, but is also drawing on your extra dimensionality through sort of a powerful, profound capacity for seeing beyond the 3D. And the fastest way that you can get to that level of humanity is to connect with your guides. If you connect with them and then they guide you, it's synonymous with saying that their wisdom becomes your wisdom and you start living as a profoundly wise being with a dexterity that most others won't be able to. This book shows you how to connect with your guides and gives you the shortest route to becoming proficient in having a relationship and communicating and receiving the wisdom and guidance from your guides. It's very short, only 99 pages. The audiobook is just 2 hours. So if you haven't got it yet, I really recommend that you get this type of education. So either learn it from me through this book, which I'm selling very, very cheap, and you know me, or find some other place where you can get the information. But it's very important, in my opinion, that you connect to your guides, build a relationship with your guides now. Okay, and I'll just quickly mention this book. I was reading this book this morning. I pick it up occasionally and read a few paragraphs, and it's great stuff. There's just so many gems and nuggets of wisdom in here which can shift your whole perspective of the life that you're living, the world that you live in, and also how you relate to your own future and so on. This is a channeled work. That's why I speak about it as if I'm reading someone else's material, because I channeled this from my guides. And again, this is a great example of what's possible when you have a connection with your guides. So the links for both of my books you can see below this video. If you'd like to have a private channeling with me, again, the link for that inquiry form is below this video. So on to today's topic. It is, which souls in your life have you known before? Greetings and thank you for the question. Which souls in your life have you known before? There is much in your environment, in the physical 3D, which is there very deliberately, because it can help you accelerate along your journey of awakening and fulfilling the reasons which you have decided to be incarnated into the circumstances of your life. In the past of the human experience, it has been less relevant that you follow a path which is very dedicated and focused on growth, understanding, having experiences which reveal yourself to yourself, and so on. But now humanity is, you could say, in the pressure cooker. This slow progress that humanity has been making, although in some regards it has been quite rapid, but slow in regard to what it can be or what it is going to become. And in the wonderful organic dynamics of the all, you find that there is now increasing pressure for you to awaken, for you to make connection with these extra realms of self, this extra dimensionality. And the way that this can be done is by utilizing much of what is within you, which is part of you, that so far, in the sort of the main experience of the earth human, has not been utilized. Now, just reflecting back on what we said, we made this statement that it's a great time, the organic dynamics of the all has now put you in this position. And what we are referring to is this looming presence of the darkness on your planet. And although they are very malevolent and cruel and unkind and genocidal and homicidal and psychopathic and so on, they are still part of the context of the all. And they are as much a individuation of the one as you are. And at a elevated level, at a higher consciousness which is beyond the human form, they are beings of the light and understand they are beings of the light and operate as beings of the light. And they are fulfilling a role on the stage of the earth human experience. And the role they are fulfilling is to be part of a cabal or a mechanism or an apparatus which is so oppressive, so dark, so cruel, so dishonest and so on, that it forces the rest of humanity to awaken, to realize they are the light and nothing but the light. And that will thrust humanity through the singularity of ascension, emerging from that birth canal into the fourth density as an awakened, unified species, as a form which knows that it is the light and nothing but the light, understands that they are connected to each other to form the single special being, and feel viscerally that they are connected to the one and always have been. This is a very important development for the human species, and it is not going to occur without the presence of the darkness. So, there are other mechanisms at play also, which are part of your context, which is very deliberately there so you can, again, accelerate along this path. And one of those is this concept of the soul group. And the soul group are souls that you have known in past lives. And you tend to be reincarnated into the same vicinity. So if you have been incarnated in your particular country at this time, then it's very likely many from your soul group have also been incarnated into your country approximately the same time, so that your lives will overlap. Whether it is grandparent and grandchild, or it is siblings, or it is partners in life, or it's partners in business, if there are people in your life who you have relationship with that you could say is important, it's not just an acquaintance, it's someone that you spend a lot of time with, somebody that you face a lot of challenges with, someone that you share a lot of love with, and so on, then it's very likely, although not necessarily absolutely, that this person is somebody that you have had past lives with. And this soul group concept is really like a team. You are a team which has made the decision that you will be incarnated together. And through this mechanism, it becomes easier for you to grow in your development as a human being, and also to develop at the soul level, to know thyself to completion through the vehicle of experience. Because prior to being incarnated, you can discuss the lives that were just shared. Perhaps you shared a life in the previous incarnation, and there was a person in your life, perhaps it was your older brother, and there was just non-stop conflict between the two of you, and you never were able to see eye to eye. And so whatever there was to be learned, to be overcome, to be integrated into self, such that there could be harmony, was never fully dawned on either of you. And so then in the interim between incarnations, you can have discussion. How did we go? What did we do? What was the result of our relationship? What is it that we wanted to accomplish? Okay, now that we have assessed all of those details, those parameters, how can we come at it again to see if we can get it right this time? What dynamics can we agree to have in our lives? What relationship will we be to each other, so that once again we are faced with this conflict, this thing between us, so that we can work through it, overcome it, and then that will be integrated into expansion of who we are. We will know ourselves to a greater extent through that experience, thereby fulfilling the divine purpose. And so then perhaps you'll be incarnated again, but this time, rather than being siblings, perhaps you are boss and employee, and you work in the same company for a very long time, and always this particular person, because they joined the company before you, has always been above you. You get promoted, but then so do they. You get promoted again, but then so do they. And you always have a conflict with them. There's always something between you. I hate my boss. And the boss says that employee is trouble. Of course, this is just an example. It does not necessarily mean that this dynamic, exactly as we are explaining it, is what is playing out in your life. So, if you're wondering, who is it in my life that I have incarnated with before, then it is a simple measure that you can take. Who is it in your life that makes you feel emotions strongly? This is people that you know on a personal basis, not somebody that you know through celebrity, and perhaps when you see them you are filled with a sense of awe, or you are filled with a sense of rage. This is not what we are saying. If there is somebody in your life that you know you have a personal relationship with of some kind, if when you're with them, your emotionality is or can be intense, intensely loving, intensely joyful, intensely hateful, then it's very likely that this person has incarnated with you before. And when you have this recognition, then you understand that this person has some significance in the reason that you have incarnated into this life at this time. And also that there is a significant reason that you also have incarnated in the vicinity of them. So, if it is somebody that you have a strong feeling and intensity of emotion which is unpleasant, whether it is hate, whether it is fear, whether it is anger, then there is something between you which really needs to be surmounted. Because If you do not surmount it in this lifetime, then it will be something which will be visited on you again with the same soul, and both of you living different incarnations. When you become adept at resolving these conflicts, which you share with the people that you have intense negative feelings with, then in subsequent incarnations, your life will be smoother and more harmonious. Your relationships will be of a better quality. So, when you look at people in your life that perhaps you know of, and their lives seem to be just a very peaceful flow of harmony, they seem to have a very healthy relationship with all that are in their vicinity, then it's very likely that particular individual has worked through much of this conflict in their past incarnations, and so more and more and more and more, their lives are becoming a harmonious flow of moments which they do not resist and allow to enter into their experience with a sense of absolute acceptance. Rather than escape the conflict and to run away from this conflict and to excommunicate people from your life, particularly if this is somebody that you have had a great degree of interaction with, and you could just never get over it, and so you excise them from your life. This is going to be something which we'll revisit. So it would be better that you take on a perspective that you would like to resolve this conflict. You would like to come to a place where there is mutual letting go of the situation. And it may be that this other person is not ready for that letting go for another decade past the point of when there is this separation through just not being able to get along. The intensity of negative feeling towards each other is just too much. We cannot even be in the same vicinity. If you can come to a place where you are ready to let it go, and you try but they cannot, then you can put it aside and decide to revisit it, perhaps in a decade or 15 years or 20 years later. Because human beings, almost universally, as they approach the end of their life, particularly if they live an extended life, 70 years, 80 years, 90 years, then it becomes much easier for them to come to a place of letting go, of acceptance, of no longer resisting what is. So, if you have people in your life which you have this butting heads with and you have thrown them out of your reality, then it would serve you to revisit that now while there is still the opportunity, so that it does not need to play out again in the next life. The experience of the all is fractal in nature, and so there are patterns within patterns. And one of the patterns you will notice in a single lifetime, even in the last year, or in the last 5 years, or in the last 10 years, is that you have repeating patterns. For example, every time you have a relationship, it ends in the same way. Why do I keep having this repeating pattern? It is because there is something to be taken from that about self, which you are failing to do. And so your internal self-definition, your beliefs, are set up such that you are going to continue to manifest that same outcome. Because from your beliefs arise your vibratory signature. And that vibratory signature is bringing to you a version of reality which resonates with this vibratory signature. And so if it remains the same, then so do your experiences, and then you get the same pattern repeating. We mention this because This also plays out on a larger fractal, which now spans actual lifetimes, spans from one lifetime to the next lifetime. And it is something that, in a sense, is wasting time. However, time is inconsequential. There really is no time. So this is just a perspective within the paradigm of the reality you're living when you are here. So, if you wish to not waste time, then address these relationships, address these conflicts, and do what you can to work through it. If the other person cannot work through it, but you feel you can let it go. This is still a great stride in the direction of self-understanding, in the likelihood that you will not have to experience the same intensity of negative emotion with that person in the future. Then there are those that you share very positive emotions with, those that you love very dearly. Perhaps it is your dear friends, it is your parents, it is your spouse, it is your children, it is your cousins, and so on. In these types of relationships, usually what is more likely is that you are here to assist each other. You are here to be a buoyancy, a guide, a support crew for that particular person to achieve what it is they are hoping to achieve in this lifetime. And they also are there fulfilling that same role for you. And again, this is a fractal of the larger fractals. And that is that you have teams. You are a team within the larger fractal of the human team, within the larger fractal of the Earth team and the solar system being team. So, your soul group is your team. And there are some in your life which you have incarnated with before that are yet to make their appearance. Perhaps they are living on the other side of the world. Perhaps they have not yet been born. Perhaps it is someone that you met a very long time ago and they soon will be cued to re-enter your life. Let us finish in this way. One of the most prominent challenges in the Earth human experience is that you are incarnated into your life in a state of very deep amnesia, but also in a way you are blindfolded because you do not really understand how the system works. Not yet, of course, humanity will become very deeply wise in its future iterations. But at this time, there is still much about the all that you do not realize. And a lot of this information has entered the human experience, but then also been expunged because it would empower you, it would awaken you, it would make it much more difficult for those that seek ultimate global dominion to have the degree of control over you as they do now. And so they prefer that you do not have access to these sacred knowledges. So, the all is serving a function. And the function is to awaken the one, or for the one to know itself to completion through the vehicle of experience. And therefore, there are features built into the system, which are there specifically to make that purpose accomplishable. But if you do not know those features are there, then you do not utilize them. And so there is this very slow, retarded progress. And it could be much faster. And one of the ways it can be much faster is if you start making assumptions about your experience, such as, this person I just met, I have a very strong feeling like I could really be this person's friend. When you have that experience, it is a worthwhile connection or further assumption that it's likely I've known this person before, and therefore it is probably worthwhile to pursue some form of relationship with them, to make this person my friend, to bring them into my life in some way. Because it is not an accident they have been incarnated in my vicinity and me in theirs, because we are here for each other, as support crew for each other. And it is possible, as the relationship develops, that you'll hit some bumps and there will be some conflict. And when that conflict occurs, this is a wonderful opportunity for both of you to surmount that. So, in our experience, we already are aware of these inbuilt functions of the all. We understand that the all wishes to awaken, to know itself to completion through the vehicle of experience. And for that to occur, that it has built into itself, into the illusory context that it created, different features and functions which serve the purpose of making that occur. And we're aware that one of those is this concept of the soul group. And so from an early life, we are cultured to realize that there are some beings in our experience which are part of our soul group. And so we are taught from a very young age to be aware, to be insightful and introspective about one's feelings with all those that come into their experience. And so that when somebody comes into your experience that is part of your soul group, you are already on the alert to make that recognition. And so we make these recognitions very early. And so by the time you could say we are in adolescence, we already are aware of quite a large number of our soul group. And we are also aware that there are some that will not be cued to enter into our experience until sometime later. And so we remain somewhat vigilant throughout our lives that there are some within our soul group that are yet to appear. And when these people do appear, it is much more easy for us to recognize that they are a member of our soul group. Not only because we are being purposefully attentive that this is going to occur, but also because we are incarnated with some memory. It is not entirely expunged. We are amnesiac to some degree because this is just necessary to really get the most benefit from the experience of our reality and our current incarnation, but we are still in possession of quite a bit of memory from our past lives. And so when we are in the vicinity of somebody for the very first time that is part of our soul group, we will have a very intense feeling that we know, oh, this is somebody that is important to me. This is a member of my soul group. And then through introspection and exploration with each other, it becomes clearer that we realize who we were to each other in the past life. And even with some clarity, we can see or perceive what it is that we did, what it is that we achieved, what it is that we did not achieve, that we hope to achieve in the past life. And so we can then prioritize that in the current life that we are sharing with each other. So, when you start living more in a sense that the entirety of the all exists to be of service to you, then life takes a different direction, or rather you take a different perspective on life which actually changes the direction. Because then when things occur in your life which you did not want to occur, you did not want to experience, rather than feeling you are being cursed or being victimized or just very unlucky, you realize that the entirety exists in service to you. And so that particular event occurred because this is the event which serves you most at that exact moment in your life. From the perspective of the lifespan of a human being, we live very long lives. You could say that we live a millennia. And because we live such long lives, we have very large windows of opportunity to do particular things or to live in certain ways. And so in the first third to a half of our life, we spend a lot of time in very close proximity with our soul group. We form a team and we decide that we are going to take on projects as the team. And speaking personally of our group, we have been a team together for what you would say are hundreds of years. And even though we are together hundreds of years, we are still young within the context of our species. And we have decided that we will be explorers, we will be investigators of the cosmos. And this is a very common way that soul groups, when they are young, will set off on their very first ventures. The excitement of going into the cosmos as a team, all knowing each other from previous lives and just gathering information, getting new perspectives. So, your guides also have known you for many incarnations. And it could be said they are part of the outer ring of your soul group. They may not be incarnated with you because they have achieved a level of awakening and knowing of thyself through the vehicle of experience that is not relevant for them to be incarnated into the same experience that you are. And so you could say they are part of your soul group, but they are an outer ring. They are not part of the inner ring, which is being incarnated into the same context. But nonetheless, they are there because they have a very important role to play in your current incarnation cycle. And they have known you for many incarnation cycles. So, because they are of a higher level of self-knowing, and also they have known you for so many incarnations, then it is very useful to you to bring them into an active, conscious relationship. Because then you have not only the soul group players of your inner circle that have been incarnated with you, but now you have some that are outside of this reincarnation context. And they are aware that it is all illusory. They understand that you are in a state of amnesia, but they are not. They are in a state of complete recollection of why you are here and what lives you have lived and who else also is part of your soul group. And so when you have this particular connection and this communication with your guides, then you can see this is a very large advantage. This is a grounds now where you can start having large leaps in your development, rapid expansion in your spiritual growth. Love those in your life that give you an intense feeling, whether it is an intense feeling of love and joy and kindness and friendship, or an intense feeling of hate and fear and anger. Because these people are souls that, outside of this particular experience you're having now, are very meaningful to you, are there for you to serve you as you are to serve them. They have decided to incarnate into your life again and again and again because they love you so, so, so much. Even those that you currently hate, even those that their very existence fills you with anger, they also are present because they love you. And they have stepped into your life and played a role which fills you with the hate and the anger, because they want to help you to overcome these limitations which are still within your self-knowing. So it would be a mistake to excommunicate them from your life forever. While it may be timely to excommunicate them at a time when resolution is absolutely impossible because the feelings are too intense and the maturity of both players is still not yet at a place where resolution can be found. Make sure that before the end of your life, you revisit that person and you attempt once again to come to some resolution about those feelings which you both shared. And thereby, you are utilizing the function of the all. You're living in a more awakened way. And no longer are you a complete amnesiac wearing the blindfold, but now you are starting to see through the veil, seeing beyond the current life you are living. And this is an expanded being. And an expanded being has expanded experiences and will be born again into a life which is more joyful, more harmonious, and more a representation of the type of life that you would like to live. Thank you, and we love you. Thank you for making it to the end of another video. And this week I'm going to tell you a story about a coincidence. I was trying to think what's a cool coincidence I could tell you that I've experienced. Probably at some stage I'm going to start repeating my stories because I've forgotten that I've told you. So when that happens, I'm just hoping that you also forgot that I told you. I don't think I've told you this one, maybe I have, I don't know, but let's try it anyway. I was living in Mexico with my wife and my son when my son was 4 years old. And we used to go to this restaurant which had this food that I really liked. And every time we were there, a little boy would come in selling roses. And I'd always give him money, but I would never take a rose. I'd just give him money. He was just cute and adorable. I had a son. I just had a soft spot for this little boy, so I'd give him some money. He was, I don't know, 7, 8 maybe. And then I'd done this multiple times, 5, 6 times. And then there was a very big parade in this city. And I got separated from my wife and my son. I was on the other side of the road, and the crowd was like 8 deep. You could not get through the crowd. And you know, I wanted to see it with my wife and my son. So I was trying to find a way, and at one spot there was a truck parked right on the side of the road, people standing on the truck, but there was really only like sort of 2 or 3 depth in front of the truck. And so I thought, well, if I go under the truck, then I'll be able to sort of come up on the other side and I don't have to push through 2 or 3 people to get to cross the road. And so I went under the truck, and then I started trying to get out from under the truck so I could sort of penetrate the last 3 rows of people to cross the road, and they wouldn't let me out. They're like, no, 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 because everybody's trying to do the same thing. They're like, no, get out of it, get out of it, get out of it. And I'm just like, I'm grabbing people's legs and I'm poking and prodding, hoping someone will take pity on me and let me through. And then I poked a leg, and a little boy sticks his head down, looks under the truck, and he goes, oh, hello, mister, it's the boy. So there's like 250,000 people at that parade, 250,000 people, and there's only one person in those 250,000 people that owe me a favour, and it was that little boy that I'd been giving the money to and not taking the rose. He owed me a favour. So as soon as he saw me, he grabbed his dad and he said, Dad, this is the man that's been giving me money every time I see him. And the dad said, oh, okay, quick, let's get him through. And so they made a gap, and they ushered me through, and I got across the other side just before the parade got to where we were, joined up with my son and my wife, and together as a family we got to watch this amazing parade. So I guess the moral of the story is that even when you're giving with no expectation of something in return, it's quite likely that the universe will give you something back anyway. So that's my story for this week. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed this week's channel, and I'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.